Hi, this is Michael Paul of New Orleans Scottish Rite College. Wanted to do a video this evening concerning the last video that we just uploaded, and I've received several questions in the mail today, and I wanted to address them before we got into some other Scottish Rite videos that are in the production work now. First one is, I am a first-time Worshipful Master. What should I do if a situation as you described in your last video happens? What should I do if someone openly challenges my authority when I give a ruling? And the second question is completely opposite of this one. What should I do if the Worshipful Master is abusing his power? Two very important questions. Let's address the second question first. What should I do if the Worshipful Master is abusing his power? There are few things that can destroy a lodge faster than a Worshipful Master who has let power go to his head or let the position control him. And many times it can be a lack of understanding of what he should or should not do, and other times it can be a personality quirk where someone allows the power to go to their head. And if a Worshipful Master is abusing his authority in a legitimate manner, then what I would suggest you do is contact past masters, district deputy grand master, or even your grand lodge to find out what procedures can be done. Certain things that are not allowed to do by a Worshipful Master, one of them is to reprimand a brother in the lodge. And when I say this, I'm speaking of those jurisdictions of which I'm familiar. It's very dangerous to give across the board advice because each jurisdiction has their own rules. So I would double check anything given with your own Grand Lodge. But in jurisdictions with which I'm familiar, reprimand in open lodge is reserved as a punishment for a trial. If one of the verdicts that can be given in a trial, if a Mason is brought up on charges and there's an actual Masonic trial, is reprimand. So if a Worshipful Master reprimands someone in lodge without a trial, then that would be overstepping his bounds. And you have to be careful in how you approach such a situation. For example, if a brother is acting up in lodge and he's acting up to the point where the only way to solve the problem is to eject him from the lodge, gaveling him up and say, brother, you will leave the lodge now, is acceptable. If you say, you shouldn't do this, you're acting unbecoming a Mason, this is not how a Mason acts, I'm ashamed of you, or any other words to this effect which give the appearance of reprimand, and then you eject him from the lodge, that's overstepping the bounds. You don't reprimand someone in lodge. Abuse of power can create problems all the way across the board, and I've seen lodges literally destroyed and cease to exist because a Worshipful Master has abused his authority. If something happens like this, bring it up to somebody. Don't keep it into yourself. Bring it up to the district deputy, talk to past masters, talk to your Grand Lodge, explain exactly what happened, and let them take it from there. Now to the first question. If someone openly challenges a Worshipful Master in lodge, what do you do? One of the things that is a problem in so many lodges is individuals are becoming Worshipful Master very quickly, and they haven't experienced that many lodges and problems in lodges. What I would advise, first off, anyone who is in line to go visit as many lodges as possible beforehand and obtain books on Masonry. And I'll show one in a moment that may be of use to you. Getting as much experience as possible is always beneficial. When you are sitting in the East, it's an odd feeling the first time you're there. You believe that everyone in the lodge is looking at you, and nerves can come into play. And many times the best responses will come 2 or 3 days later, and you realize, oh, I should have said this. But what you need to do is recognize that in all cases, peace and harmony must be maintained in a lodge. And there are certain steps that Worshipful Master needs to do if there is a problem. If in the last video we gave a case where someone tried to overrule the Worshipful Master, there was a vote taking place, discussion on the vote, and someone interrupted this to sell tickets for some Masonic event. The Worshipful Master properly told the brother that he was out of order and that they can continue this after the vote was taken, and he'll be glad to listen to him. Another brother who had been something of a kingpin in the lodge instructed him, no, he wanted to hear this, and he wanted the brother to continue, and he told the brother to continue. Now, what the Worshipful Master should have done was drop the gavel at that time and said, this discussion is ended. And that would be it in any reasonable situation. If a brother wished to continue that and it was challenged, then it would be appropriate to tell the brother, brother so-and-so, you're out of order. You will maintain decorum, proper decorum in this lodge. If it pursued, the best course of action is to place the lodge at refreshment and then deal with the brother outside of a lodge at labor. You don't want, by any means and any way to avoid it, you want to keep disturbances out of a lodge at labor. In all cases, a successful Worshipful Master wants to project an aura of confidence that he is in control of the lodge, and at the same time there's a balance that must be achieved. You want to make it clear that you are the Worshipful Master of the lodge, but you never want to appear to be abusive in any way. You never want to seem unfair, unyielding, or unwilling to listen to someone else. You want to project this balance between fairness and unfairness, and you do not want to stray into the unfair side of the board. One of the best things that I've seen is always to take a beat. When something happens, don't immediately respond. Process it for a second. What has just happened? What is this going on? What am I going to do? If you take a beat after something happens, many times you can avoid a knee-jerk reaction and saying something that maybe you shouldn't have said. But in all cases, the Worshipful Master, if there is an unruly member, he should, without question, reduce any unruly member to order. And in doing so, he must do so in a firm way and making it clear that his goal is to maintain order in the lodge and that he has the best interest of the lodge in mind. And when you do any sort of step that is contrary to what someone else wants, there could always be hard feelings. If there is extremely hard feelings on someone who actually may not understand the true principles of Freemasonry, you talk to them. Try to get them to understand that you're not trying to single them out or be abusive or cause any problem to them personally, but at the same time, recognize that your obligation is to the lodge and that you're doing things that need to be done for the best interest of the lodge. And if it cannot be resolved, then you may need to take it to other people, seek advice, try past masters, district deputy grand masters, anyone who may be more seasoned or experienced in this matter. Get advice from them, but do not allow a lodge to be taken over or for displays or outbursts to take place in the lodge. Now, a number of years ago, I remember visiting lodge websites, and this was in the early days of the internet. And I was looking at various aspects on the Grand Lodge websites, different ones. And I came across one Grand Lodge, and they had a list of recommended books that were useful for Worshipful Masters. And one of the books that I saw listed was Robert's Rules of Order. And I was a little surprised. And the reason I was surprised is because Robert's Rules of Order is probably the most respected and used guide for presiding officers in clubs and fraternities and such. But as far as the Masonic Lodge goes, it's extremely dangerous, because there's many things that a lodge does that is contrary to what clubs do. For example, in a lodge, if there's a motion made and second, and it's debated, and the Worshipful Master calls for a vote, and the vote goes one way or the other, the Worshipful Master does not have the authority to overrule that vote. And by the same turn, the same display we saw before, if the Worshipful Master gives a ruling that something is out of order, that's it. There is no appeal or override from the membership. In Robert's Rules, it sometimes is gray on that. Because I recognized that Robert's Rules of Order was being recommended and that it was problematic, I came out with a book that I revised, is Robert's Rules of Order Masonic Edition. And what I tried to do with that book was to take the basic structure of Robert's Rules and make it apply to the common practices of Masonry and the Masonic Lodge, to make it useful. And I changed and revised the aspects that were incorrect, and I used Masonry as the guide for it. Now, this book is a general book, and in the introduction there's a disclaimer that each and every Grand Lodge has their own rules and regulations, and at any time where something is out of step with the rules of a Grand Lodge, and you obviously apply the rules of the Grand Lodge. But there are a number of books and resources that you can go to learn what you should do as a Worshipful Master, and ways that you can help avoid problems in your demeanor, in your tone, in your experience. If you do not know the ritual, there may be a presumption that you don't know the rules and you don't know the law, and when you make a ruling, it may be questioned because there's insecurity and doubt as to whether you know anything. This is just another reason why a presiding officer, a Worshipful Master, who is competent in the ritual, in his professional, in his appearance, and giving all aspects that he is in control, will have a far easier time than someone who seems like they're not really sure of what they're doing, or they don't care what they're doing, or anything like this. So please keep these letters coming, and I will answer as many as I can, and I will do a series of short videos if necessary on questions alone, along with the other series. And I appreciate your time. Thank you for viewing.